You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network. Den säger ja, framgången är ett accelerate.
How are we doing, everybody? It is episode number 9 of the Angry Marks Rewind podcast here at AngryMarks.com, your number one source for pro wrestling and mixed martial arts news and entertainment. And I'm joined once again by my partner in crime, Magic Mike Poulin. Mike, how are you today? Did we already lose you? Are you there?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Volume, everybody. Sorry, that was my fault.
I was going to say, I can hear you.
If we ever got it right on the first, we were
getting it right until then.
30 seconds ago, we were just marveling about how we got it right on the first try, and oh well.
30 seconds later.
Yeah, so like I said, we're here. It's episode number 9 of the Angry Marks Rewind podcast. I am Rowan Unruh. Follow me on Twitter at Rowan Unruh. And here's Mike. Mike, let's try this again. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good. How was your weekend?
It was a weekend.
Any indie shows lately?
No, but I'm going to WWE on Friday. Oh, wait, there was one on Friday, this past Friday.
How was that?
It was a show.
I guess that's as good as you can say, huh?
Yeah. It's locals.
Well, hey, at least it's not a show that is going to be canceled over murder allegations, corruption, blood money.
Canceled.
Yeah. What happened this weekend? Let's see here. I had a busy weekend. I watched. Well, I know that you're not a huge MMA fan. But I did watch, there were 2 Bellator shows back-to-back, and I actually watched both of those. I watched Ryan Bader beat up Matt Mitrione, and my close personal longtime friend Chael P. Son, and I love him, but he got killed by Fedor in the first round. And so we're going to see Fedor against Ryan Bader for the heavyweight Bellator title on January 26th. I went through my cable package just so I could add the Paramount Network. I guess that's what used to be Spike TV. Does that sound right? I think so.
I think so. I haven't watched that since Impact went off there.
Yeah, so,
and they had a pay-per-view this weekend on Sunday, but I'll talk about Thursday. Yeah,
I was going to ask you about Bound for Glory. First of all, I was watching some Bound for Glory clips. Are they in a 10x10 ring? That ring looked so tiny.
I think it was because of how small the building was.
That was just.
They're in the Melrose Ballroom in New York.
That was just a minute. Maybe it just looked smaller on TV, and actually.
You know your venue's in trouble when you don't name the city you're in. You just say we're in New York.
Yeah, we're just in downtown New York. Speaking of Impact, the Impact Implosion, the show that is hosted by yourself and the Drakens, which can be found here at the Angry Marks Podcast Network. I got to tell you, Mike, I have a bit of a bone to pick with you.
You do? What did I do?
Well, for the past couple of weeks, I've been listening to the shows, and I am listening at the very end of the show when your co-host says, "Hey, anything else to plug?" And you say nothing. Nothing.
I've been on in the last couple of weeks.
This has happened for a couple of weeks in a row. I'm waiting for you to plug the Angry Marks Rewind show, and you're not doing it.
I will plug it this week.
Are we not as entertaining? Do we not... Oh, did he just hang up? Let's go back. Let's try him again. Mad at me now.
Sorry about that. Hit the button.
He was so mad at me that he hung up on me.
No, but I'll plug the show this week. We weren't on last week. That's why I didn't plug anything.
I see. See, here I figure it's like, man, I'm going to get some cross-promotion, just like I do for just like I try to do for every other show. And, man, you cut me, brother. You cut me deep.
I did, huh?
See, what else is happening? Oh, hey, if you live in Canada, I don't know if this news has reached the States yet. Or no, if you are a marijuana partaker, come to Canada this week because it becomes legal on the 17th.
Oh, boy. That's
So
Wednesday.
So let Ed in San Antonio know. that he can come to Canada anytime, and this is strictly for recreational use. This is not listed as a medical device, but apparently Canada has now become the second country in the world that has legalized recreational marijuana. So God bless Canada. But I tell you, I'm going to warn you though, if you do that, it's going to be a gateway drug to other Canadian things, like wearing toques and watching hockey and apologizing and things like that.
Right.
So
and Celine Dion and Alanis Morissette music.
Hey, you never know. So
even though I like Alanis Morissette, I just don't like Celine.
So if you try pot in Canada legally, make sure that you don't get sucked into these other Canadian cults.
And speaking of a cult, we have a promotion with a cult following this week.
Yeah, I was going through my Twitter, and usually about once every 2 weeks or so, I go through and I delete a lot of people I'm following. I know that you're not a big Twitter user, and so I am going through Twitter and I'm unfollowing a bunch of people, and I'm thinking if Twitter existed in November of 1999, there would be a lot of negative Twitter action for this show, I think.
Even though this is a pretty fun show that we watched for this week's show.
There's so much to chat about this show, and I learned my lesson from the ROH pay-per-view that we did last time. I took a ton of notes.
Yep.
So the what we're looking at here, ladies and gentlemen, is the 1999 November to Remember, Sunday, November 7th.
1999 from the Flickinger Center in Buffalo.
Yeah, I love how the WWE Network lets us relive every major classic wrestling event, but I don't think any company looked worse over the passage of time than a stripped-down ECW. The theme music is gone. There's different commentary during portions of the show. I'm pretty positive
all the entrance music is gone.
I'm pretty positive that entire New Jack match was completely revoiced, because during that particular segment, there was no Don Callis in that entire match, so I think Joey Styles might have revoiced that whole segment.
And speaking of that, we have the announcement from the welcome from Joey Styles, and Don Callis is wearing a white glove.
Yeah,
because apparently Buffalo is the bacteria capital of the world. And I did not know that.
Instead of, hey, the more you know, right? So he said he would rather... as opposed to living in Buffalo, he'd rather drive from Toronto.
Okay.
I can't tell him he's wrong. And then he brags about working once every 8 weeks, only on pay-per-views, so he's the Brock Lesnar of 1999 ECW.
Oh, actually, I think he did that first. But speaking of the guy who does the TV, here comes Joe Gertner.
Do you remember his poem? I didn't write this down. All I can say is
I think I can.
It's not PG, so...
Well,
if you want...
It is I, the quintessential stud muffin. Joel, I'm the man they want to pork when I come to Buffalo, New York. And when I'm at Niagara Falls, something about coming my balls. I can't remember the last line.
You were doing so well there, and then you just kind of fell off a cliff.
I couldn't remember the last part of it.
Well, basically,
the fountains come to lick my balls. There it goes. God damn my memory loss.
God, I'm so glad we figured that out. Let me write that down.
And then Gertner cuts a promo about carrying Joey Styles for the TV, and he's going to do it for pay-per-view, and here comes Tazz.
Yeah, he starts, Tazz comes out, the crowd starts chanting, "You sold out, you sold out." This was his last ECW show, and everybody knew it.
Yeah, he had lost the ECW title at the last pay-per-view.
Yeah, he starts to get upset because Joey Styles hasn't returned any of his calls. And Tazz is pissed because Joey insinuated on TV that he's a coward for attacking Rob Van Dam from behind and slapping on the Tazmission. And Tazz says,
how do you slap on the Tazmission, Joey Styles?
How do you expect me to put on the Tazmission? And Joey's just like, from behind? And then...
Oh, but why'd you have to do that? Because he was fighting with Sabu for some reason.
And Joey starts laughing, so Tazz starts doing the, you think I'm funny? Am I a joke to you?
And then they have an unending argument that no one can win, and then Joey leaves the ring before he gets choked out.
Yeah, Tazz says, "I'll give you to the count of 3 to leave," and Joey's like, "I don't need 3."
I'm out of here. Gertner says the same thing, but Tazz chokes him out, so we're going to get Cyrus. That's why we get Cyrus on commentary. Even though we already established that that's what he's doing tonight.
Yeah, so he chokes.
ECW, everybody.
He chokes out Gertner. Tazz cuts a promo on RVD for their match. Gertner's dead, so Cyrus is in. Tazz and Cyrus shake hands, which, thus cementing his heel turn.
For the evening.
Tazz went on record before saying that he thought that he should have actually finished with the company in September at Anarchy Rules when he dropped the title. They kept him
That's a show we'll have to do one day because that's another fun show.
I actually enjoyed that one better than this one.
Well, that one flows better than this one does.
Even after that title match, they kept him for 2 more months. He kept losing on TV. They turned him heel, and I think that really cooled down his WWF debut later in January.
At the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. And that takes us to our opening, I guess we'll call it a match. It's Spike Dudley versus Simon Diamond, and he's accompanied by Big Dick Hertz.
Simon cuts a promo. He has a problem with the fact that 2 good-looking, intelligent, clean-cut guys can't just be friends. Well, and then Dick slaps him on the ass, and we get a whole bunch of Dick jokes. And Jazz comes out, and
he says
she has a problem with Simon having a problem.
He says, "Go get him, Tiger," and he slaps him on the ass, and everyone's making gay jokes. And
Simon says, "I did not tell you to do that, but I'll let Dick slide." Wrong reference to make when they're already thinking you're gay, there, buddy. Good job.
Look at my dick. It's so big. It's so vascular. In 1999, I'm sure this was very funny. In 2018, it does not age well at all.
It's awkward and weird, as the opening to these ECW pay-per-views usually are.
Yeah.
Spike Dudley, Simon Diamond is about 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, 1999 was probably the peak. It was probably past the peak of ECW in terms of creativity and originality. And if this show was produced today, it would have been massacred.
Yeah, we have a brief brawl on the floor. Simon does his suplex spot, but then Spike headbutts him and lands a Dudley the acid drop because ECW and drug references.
Yeah, so that match lasted 3 minutes, so there's not much to that one.
Did somebody say 3 minutes?
That immediately leads to Little Guido coming out and Big Sal. They run in and attack Spike. This brings out Nova, so we technically get our second match, Nova versus Guido. Joey says Nova is the most imitated wrestler in the business, but Cyrus says no one wants to imitate that hairdo. There was nothing wrong with his hair, it was just a standard ponytail.
How is he? I guess because people steal his moves that he's imitated.
I guess between 97 and 99, he was coming up with all sorts of cool moves, and too bad that
ECW was not on TV in that time frame.
That didn't carry over though to when he was in WWF. So
he was Simon Dean.
So there was a crossbody off the top by Nova to the floor. They bring up Guido's training under Billy Robinson. Nova hits this cool looking power bomb. Like it starts up in his power bomb position, flips him up into an ace crusher. They called that the Smash Mouth because you got to take advantage of the 1999 pop culture references, and that made me wonder if there's another wrestler out there with a move called the Sugar Ray. Get it?
We know Nova wasn't. Yes, we know Nova wasn't an all-star tonight.
You got to sell the jokes here. All-star. I see what you did there.
Because he gets squashed by Sal, and then Guido lands the unprettier, or whatever he calls it, Tamakaze. Because it's, I guess, I don't know. And Square scores to win. And then we get Chetty and Nova coming out. No, we get Doring and Roadkill coming out, don't we?
Post-match, the beatdown by Nova by the FBI. Chetty first comes running out. He's back from an injury, and he makes the save.
Anarchy Rules.
Yeah, and he was, wearing what was he wearing? It's like a skin-tight jacket with feather wrists.
Looks like a very short glacier.
This then brings out Danny Doring and Roadkill. They lay out Chetty. They're the ones that had injured him in September at Anarchy Rules. Roadkill hits a top rope splash to Chetty's back, so I guess he's injured again.
Yay.
Cyrus.
And that brings us to the next thing.
Yeah, a lot of ECW pay-per-views in this sort of time frame, this was their start, basically. It was just one guy after another, and each segment
we couldn't find a spot for on the card anyway, so
Yeah.
We're just going to use them in the first 10 minutes of the show.
Each segment
After we have a long Joey Styles, Joe Gertner, Cyrus monologue.
Yeah, each segment just kind of bleeds into the next, and I don't think this is something they should have put on pay-per-view. This is something that, if they could have had a pre-show or some other, showcase show before this.
On ECW or on TNN, you could have done all this.
Cyrus says the whole show's been changed, and Joey Styles missed the production meeting.
What meeting?
We then get Steve Corino coming down with Jack Victory. They're coming along with Yoshihiro Tajiri. Tajiri grabs the mic, and he calls Tajiri the god of the three-way dance. And Japanese. He
grabs the mic and he calls himself the god of the three-ways. That would have been in Japanese, I would imagine.
And he says that.
I think you mean Corino grabs the mic.
What did I say? Did I say Tajiri?
Yeah, you said Tajiri.
All right. Well, no, Corino did, because he was the talker. And Corino delivers this promo with a lot of slow yelling Japanese. Ah!
Never. And then we have Super Crazy come out, and Tajiri and Crazy have been feuding this whole 1999 on pay-per-view, except for the last the two pay-per-views before this one. They had some good matches earlier in the year, Guilty as Charged and Living Dangerously. Mm-hmm. And then they had a bunch of matches that were on like ECW arena shows and house shows and all that stuff.
Yeah, you could probably have taken any combination of these three guys, throw Guido in there as well, and you're going to get good matches out of everybody. I thought the star of this in the beginning was Corino. I think, he's a great heel presence. He's a very young, skinny, bleached Corino who was only being used as a mouthpiece for Tajiri. And he came out in his wrestling gear, and he had a giant package sticking out that no one could not unsee. What a great heel that he was because of that. And I think Corino was one of the guys that was most improved in 1999. A year later, he'd be feuding with Dusty Rhodes. He'd have a run as ECW champ, and he really elevated himself at a time when a lot of these guys were leaving the company.
Yep, and then you have Jerry Lynn, who's had a great series of matches early in 99 with Rob Van Dam. Very heralded. We'll have to talk about those on later down the line.
I think my favorite one was the Living Dangerously match.
Yeah, I've seen that one, and then they had the one that was on the first ECW VHS that was released in 2000 from Hardcore Heaven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I think the Living Dangerously one. That was the match that they used as the teaser or for the first TNN show.
Yep, and these three have a good match, although, like you said, I think you could have cut off the first two matches and made this one probably about 5 minutes longer.
Yeah,
this was a short match for an elimination.
Yeah, this would have made a great opener, just like you said, if it had been about 5 minutes more. There's an awesome sequence to begin with Crazy and Lynn, which got the crowd hopping early. Tajiri applied the tarantula.
Cyrus with a racist joke about the two foreigners cutting a deal. Never trust a foreigner.
Well, technically, he's a Canadian, and he's in the U.S., so does that count?
I don't know. Oh. Maybe.
So Tajiri applies the tarantula to Lynn while Crazy starts kicking at Lynn's injured ribs. Lynn came in with his ribs all taped up.
Sporting the DDP rib tape.
Lynn hits a crossbody to the floor. There's an Asai moonsault by Tajiri to both guys on the floor.
Crazy brawl on the floor, and Crazy does his best new jack dive out of the balcony.
Yeah, they get to the top of one of these entrance tunnels going into the arena, so he's probably a legit 10 feet off the floor. He hits this incredible-looking moonsault to both guys. Cyrus said that foreign wrestlers can't get over, which was a callback, or I guess it was kind of a slap to a Vince Russo interview that Vince did on Wrestling Observer Radio on IATA earlier that year. Russo had just started with WCW a few weeks prior, and basically said if you can't speak English, you're not going to be as successful. And this comment was met with a lot of criticism at the time. Although, I guess
that's not true, but it's Russo.
If you ask Asuka these days, there might be some truth to that.
Nakamura, Asuka.
Yeah. Crazy puts on an inverted surfboard. Cyrus brings up how it makes no sense for anyone to break up the falls, which is true. This was an elimination match, and the guys were breaking up pinfall attempts.
Yeah, that's bad psychology, folks.
Unless they just are feeling selfish and they're the ones that want to get the pin, which is exactly what
That
happened
makes
because
sense.
Jerry Lynn hit the cradle pile driver on Super Crazy. Tajiri broke it up only so he could pick up Crazy, hit a brainbuster, and get the elimination.
A totally necessary brainbuster. And then we have Lynn and Tajiri, which goes for a few minutes. And I mean, Tajiri does this. Lynn goes for the pile driver, but it hurts his ribs. But then Lynn gets a burst of energy, hits Tajiri with a forearm, hits the greater pile driver, and wins.
Yeah, he no-sells Tajiri's kicks and gets the pinfall at 11 minutes. So I thought the three-way portion of this match was really good, and it wasn't your typical WWE three-way where one guy gets thrown outside and the two guys go one-on-one for a while. All three guys, they all have different backgrounds and different styles. I thought all three always really had really good chemistry, and seeing Tajiri and Super Crazy here in this environment was a lot of fun because they definitely were not able to have these kind of matches in WWE.
Nope. Well, were they even in WWE at the same time?
There might have been some brief crossover in 2004.
2005 when the Mexicals debuted.
Somewhere around there. I don't know. They may have just been like passing ships in the night, but.
And I think they teamed up on one of the one-night stand shows.
I
think it was Tony Mamaluke.
I thought that was Tajiri and Mikey Whipwreck.
No, it was Tajiri and Crazy.
Okay, well, we'll go back and see someday.
That was, I think, 06.
So there's a post-match beatdown. Carino attacks Jerry Lynn. Lynn comes back with a dropkick on Jack Victory and hits another cradle pile driver to Carino to end the segment. And
super babyface Jerry Lynn, everybody.
But hey, that's okay because Carino would get the last laugh a year later because he would go on to beat Jerry Lynn for the ECW title at this event the following year.
Yes, he would.
So, sorry,
and
Jerry.
And we get a video package of Angel stapling New Jack in the eye, and I love how the tone of the Oh My Gods and Joey Styles' voice just goes down each time. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Drops headset.
You know, what a goofy gimmick, Baldies. Angel, WWF 90s jobber Tony DeVito, Vito LaGrassa, and News.
DeVito.
Formerly
which is PN News.
PN News.
Yo, baby, yo, baby, yo.
They were bald and they were from Dust Street. And it was clear that Angel was...
Vito would be in WCW within a month after the show.
And he would break his ass.
This is a New Jack brawl.
Don't try leg drops over the top rope to the floor. So yeah.
Axel and Balls come out, and Joey Styles puts over how this could take you back to ECW in 1993.
Right. So whatever we showed you in that three-way prior, just forget about it.
Whatever good wrestling we had in the last match, just forget about it. You know, Axel and Balls come out 2 against 4. That sounds smart.
Now, was this originally
and they get beat
scheduled
up for a couple minutes? I think this was probably originally scheduled to be 4 against 2. And then New Jack just showed up.
Who would agree to that?
Well, I mean, you're talking about Axel Rotten and Balls Mahoney. Do they sound like smart guys to you?
I think it was pretty clear at the beginning that Angel was the prospect of the group. I think he's the guy that ECW wanted to make something out of. They started with the New Jack chant, and he comes out, and like all New Jack segments, his music is playing throughout the entire match.
Except it's an overdub from the network because you can't use the original Gangster song.
Yeah,
for probably various reasons.
So there was no Don Callis in this segment, and there was some
seemed awkward.
Some rip-off Dr. Dre Ice Cube remix, and I think the next time we do an ECW review from this time frame, I'm going to seek out the original version because so much atmosphere of these shows are lost without the original music. The crowd noise.
I kind of agree with you.
I think the crowd noise was affected by it. It's one of those things about ECW that I loved was the live environment, and the network gives us this watered-down version.
Vince isn't going to pay royalties for all the actual music, but New Jack comes out with a bucket full of weapons. He vacuum cleans the nuts of one of the Baldies.
Yeah, he does like when you go to the carnival and you do that game with the sledgehammer and you try and hit the thing so that the gimmick hits the bell.
Uh-huh.
Everyone knows what I'm talking about, right?
I do. I've never played it, but I've heard of it.
Jack was the star of this. I mean, Balls and Axel, they did nothing of note except get beat up.
And New Jack does a dive onto the balcony, which was his staple, and he also used a stapler, so that's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does a dive off the balcony, and
No, it wasn't the balcony. It was the basketball net.
And he somehow recovers long enough to come back in the ring and get hit with a guitar of some sort and pinned.
Well, not before he beat up one of the Baldies with an original Nintendo system.
And a bunch of Nintendo references.
If I was going to
Super
use
Mario, who that guy ever beat?
I think the Duck Hunt gun could have added a lot to this match, or the Power Glove.
Yes.
But
and the heels win because it's a New Jack match.
I think if I were going to use a retro video game console to attack someone with, it'd probably be an Xbox 360.
Maybe an Atari.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's heavy. It's got those big ridges in the front. You could
Nintendo 64.
You could scrape someone's face across it. I don't know. Oh.
And the Baldies win, and we have a Sabu promo. He's dedicating his match and his pay-per-view to a friend of his that passed away, I guess.
Yeah, I guess his name was Ticho. I think that's what he had written on his armband. I don't think Ticho was ever involved in the wrestling business. I think he's just like a personal friend of his.
His best friend.
Yeah, I want to talk more about this music here. It didn't bug me as much in the New Jack segment. It bugged me later on during the main event. And ECW, if you watched it before the network, they used copyright music for years, right? Not only did they use it on pay-per-views, but they sold DVDs with it. Can you just imagine?
And music albums too. They had a couple of music CDs that came out in like 9901.
Can you imagine trying that today? How they never got sued, I'll never know. I mean,
because they're indie, and that's what indie companies do.
I suppose indie groups even today they do that, figuring that these are giant record labels. They won't come after them because they're such small, rinky-dink operations. But in ECW, the music was such a huge part of these characters that they made such a big deal about it. These shows really lose something when you don't have the music, and you can't really blame WWE. I guess if anything, I should probably be commending them for still being able to put on a show like this with the commentary, but replacing the music. Because as a video editor, I know what kind of a nightmare it is to try and remove one audio track while keeping the rest. Angel gave him the old El Kabong job on New Jack, and this match only went 8 minutes and 20 seconds, and they deemed Angel the new king of the streets via guitar shot.
I mean, how long do you want this match to go, really?
Yeah. Wasn't Jeff Jarrett was doing the same thing, so wouldn't he be the king of the streets?
No, he'd just be the king of Nashville, Tennessee.
Speaking of rip-off music, Chris Candido comes out with some AC/DC Back in Black rip-off along with Tammy.
Who does not look as good as she did years earlier. And her looks have gotten...
She was still pretty... I don't know, she was still sort of... She was on the slight...
wasn't stunning.
She wasn't stunning, but she was just on the slight decline. On the Tammy scale, she still was pretty good.
She's just not sunny.
I wouldn't kick her out. That's what I'm saying.
Not back then, I wouldn't.
But, Tammy was becoming at this point a huge part of this company. The ratings on TNN were not great, but they thought being on a big network like TNN, they'd be able to challenge Raw or Nitro, and they were doing just over 1 million viewers a week, but it was a Friday night time slot, and they started to really rely heavily on the women doing catfight spots, and that was becoming more and more of a theme on these Friday night shows. So that was Tammy's job, basically, and she did it very well. And we got a pretty damn long match for this show. Candido and Sabu. They started.
It was fine, but it was longer than probably about 5 minutes longer than it should have been.
Yeah, Candido gets tossed to the floor. Sabu does a pescado to the outside. Alfonso introduces a chair early, which leads to a triple jump leg drop by Sabu. He then drapes a table across the apron and the barricade, making a bridge, but they never actually used that in any spots. Sabu hits a top rope hurricanrana, and Alfonso puts the table in the ring now. There's a low blow to Sabu. He gets placed on the table by Candido. Candido then misses a leg drop off the top rope and goes through a table. Let's see here. There was a superplex spot by Candido was hit. He had a diving top rope headbutt and a pile driver. And then this finish was really weird and really mistimed. Did you catch what happened here?
Sabu has Candido on a table. He climbs the ropes and Tammy gets involved. And Alfonso gets involved and basically pretty much, grabs her man on woman violence. Another thing that doesn't fly nowadays.
Yeah, Alfonso really took a round out of Tammy here. Just grabbed her by first he came in and started clubbing her on, big double axe to the back of the head and then puts her in a front face lock. This would never fly.
You put her on the table. Sabu's about to drop the leg. Candido gets up and takes the bullet for her, which Cyrus said, this is not the first time a woman has, a man has sacrificed himself for a woman, which is true, but, he should do that.
Yeah,
in any event.
Yeah, Candido takes out Alfonso, who is supposed to be saving Tammy by pushing her off the table, thus taking the bullet for when Sabu jumps. But by the time Alfonso is out of the ring, Tammy's already off the table. So Candido has to fake trying to save her, and it just looks like he just walks over to an empty table and leans over it, and then Sabu jumps and hits this leg drop through the table.
And then he locks in a camel clutch because I guess the story of this match is that Sabu wanted to make Candido submit.
Yeah.
Which is weird for a Sabu match.
Yeah, so Sabu gets the win with this lazy half-looking camel clutch at 17:43. But I think they were really trying to push Candido as, switching from this comedy wrestler to a very serious contender, even in defeat.
Yes, and this would be Candido's last appearance in ECW, and then he would show up in WCW in April of 2000 for like 2 months.
Yeah, this was a really turbulent time for ECW. They had just lost the Dudleys. They were about
Tazz was leaving.
They were about to lose Tazz, so they had to rely on these ECW, veterans, Sandman and Dreamer and Raven, who returned to the company in August of '99. WCW
Sandman returning from a run in WCW.
Oh man, yeah, and there was both of those guys having really lackluster performances there. And
Raven was at least pretty well used in the beginning. It's just towards the end he wasn't.
Yeah, WCW and WWF were both looking to bolster their roster, and ECW was great for cherry-picking talent. And RVD was in their future plans to have a run with the world title, but he would be injured for up to a year. And in the meantime, they had put the title on Mike Awesome, who was a tremendous athlete, and he had a long history with Tanaka in FMW.
And they actually played that up. We have promos from both Tanaka, who says, I'm gonna win ECW title in broken English, and then Mike Awesome and Judge Jeff Jones, Jeff Jones is a referee who I guess they somehow became a judge.
Yeah. Do we care about Lou E. Dangerously?
The former Stein Guy Dudley.
There was a backstage video and it was just the back of this person who looked like Paul E. And he's freaking out. He's on a phone. He allegedly fires Jazz and Francine, and then he turns around and it's Lou.
We're both on the show anyway.
And it's Lou E. Dangerously, and I don't know what the point of this was. He didn't last very long, I don't think.
No, he managed C.W. Anderson for a little bit.
So that
New Dangerous Alliance.
That's his brush with greatness, is it?
No, he was part of Dudley. In another gimmick, he was part of the whole Dudley's clan.
All right, so we got Masato Tanaka challenging Mike Awesome for the ECW title.
Well, this match. Talk about things that would not fly.
If there was ever an argument for concussion prevention, this is it. And this isn't even one of their most violent matches.
No, they have one on another ECW pay-per-view about a year and a half before this.
So it starts out early. Tanaka sends Awesome to the floor. He hits a crossbody from the top rope. He then runs at him while holding a chair into the barricade. Tanaka Tanaka reverses an Irish whip, and then he tries a leapfrog, but he didn't try very hard because he didn't get very high. Awesome
suplexes him and clotheslines him to the floor, and does a dive, and Joey Styles says, most men that size do not lose their feet anymore, brother. I wonder who he's taking a shot at.
Well, there is that relation there.
Yeah.
What's it? I think what Mike Awesome is. He's the cousin of Horace, isn't he?
Is he?
I'm pretty sure.
I did not know that. And Horace is the cousin of Hulk?
Horace is the nephew of Hulk. Let's take a look here.
Hey.
Mike Awesome. Michael Lee Alfonso. Come on, Wikipedia. Personal life. Death. Oh, here's another one. Death row. Alfonso is the cousin of Hulk Hogan's nephew, Michael Balea, who is better known for his stint under the ring name Horace Hogan. He is no relation.
And the Predator.
He is no relation to Bill Alfonso, but he is.
Daddy.
Okay. So there you go. He's the cousin of the real leader of the NWO Black and White.
And you think he would get a better run in WCW when he would pop up there a year later?
So glad we figured that out.
Yes, I'll be able to sleep tonight. Anyway, yes, concussion prevention. If you want an argument for that, watch this match.
So Tanaka rolls to the floor after being dropped on his head from this overhead belly to belly, and Awesome follows up with the big Undertaker dive over the top rope,
but he doesn't botch it.
No, he didn't. He was very good at this.
And then he throws him in the ring and grabs a chair. Everybody.
Before that, Tanaka is thrown out over the guardrail, so he's behind the rail. He's amongst the front row ham and eggers. And then Awesome, from the inside of the ring, hits a springboard crossbody from the ring to the arena floor over the guardrail. I thought that was damn impressive.
Completely safe spot. No fans could ever get hurt in if that goes wrong.
And and Awesome had just come off double knee surgery, so clearly he was trying to take it easy so as not to mess up the procedure.
Right. Yes, he was indeed.
Chair shots up next.
Chair shots, everybody.
God.
3 of them.
Unprotected, right to Tanaka's dome.
And I know people miss these shots. I don't miss these kind of chair shots at all. I don't like the way they do it now, but I don't want to see people get concussed or seriously injured.
I like the way Brian Alvarez explains it. It said he was told that one time he was going to have to take a chair shot from Tim Flowers, and instead of just putting up his hands in front of his forehead, he had both arms extended fully with his hands out.
With arms wide open.
So that's how you take a chair shot. I'm not taking this on the dome in front of 40 people.
Nor should you, Mr. Alvarez. We need you to write stuff for the Observer or whatever dirt sheet you write for.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll talk about the ECW's love for dirt sheets later on. Tanaka then gets the chair. He nails. So they exchanged unprotected chair shots back and forth. Tanaka just pops up after taking 2 major shots. Tanaka then gets the chair. He nails Awesome in the head. Awesome doesn't go down. Tanaka tosses him the chair. Awesome catches it, and then Tanaka hits that roaring elbow to the chair.
Rolling elbow, not roaring.
Roaring.
It's rolling.
I typed roaring.
Yeah, it's roaring because Joey Styles is a racist, but you know. It's actually rolling.
So Awesome is
making fun of the Asian heritage.
Awesome. Hey, as an Asian man, I was offended by that.
Yeah.
So Awesome is
Asian?
Awesome is
Canadian.
Awesome is lying in. Well, I eat lots of spring rolls.
I eat a lot of. Actually, I don't.
So Awesome is lying dead in the middle of the ring, face up, and Tanaka lays a chair on Awesome's face, completely blocking out any vision or sight lines he may have. Tanaka takes another chair, climbs to the top rope, hits a chair-assisted elbow smash right to the top of Awesome's head. That's wonderful. There was no way he could protect himself on that. He didn't see it coming. Tanaka hits a tornado DDT onto 2 chairs, another 2 count. He tried it a second time, and Awesome countered with a sit-out powerbomb onto the chairs.
And here comes the big spot of the match.
We get a clothesline and an Alabama jam by Awesome to Tanaka. Awesome and Jeff Jones set up a table ringside. Awesome and Tanaka are both on the apron, and Awesome hits this sit-out powerbomb off the apron through the table on the floor. And the crowd and the announcers lost their damn minds.
My mother's going to hate me for this, but holy shit. I don't think she's going to hate you because I don't think she's watching.
Joey Styles cursed live on the air. And I don't know.
It wouldn't be the first time.
I guess in 1999, a powerbomb off the apron through a table on the floor would have been giant. But I guess in 2018 standards, after seeing this kind of seemed anticlimactic and kind of tame by comparison.
And the match goes on for another 5 minutes.
Yeah, so Awesome has this giant gash on the back of his right leg from landing on that table. So he starts, he's all scarred up. Judge Jones slides another table into the ring, and Awesome sets it up in the ring, lays Tanaka on the table. Awesome climbs the rope to try and splash it, but Tanaka cuts him off. They fight for positioning for a while, and Tanaka ends up superplexing Awesome through the table, and he tossed this guy. They went almost 3/4 the length of the ring. They went a long way.
Tanaka's body, the scars on Tanaka's body look like a road map, Joey Styles.
So Tanaka hits the Diamond Dust, which, if you've never seen it before, basically it's a front...
It's a flipping reverse stunner off the middle rope.
It's a flipping Stone Cold Stunner, basically. He signals for the Roaring Elbow. Awesome ducks. German suplexes him right onto his head. Tanaka no-sells that. Awesome hits him with a Superfly Splash for 2. Awesome drags Tanaka to the corner, hoists him up, and gives him literally like a super power bomb off the top rope for the win at 12 minutes and 27 seconds. Thank God these guys didn't die.
Yeah. Well, Mike Awesome did years later, but...
Well, okay, poor choice of words. Whoops.
And yeah, this match is one of those that, it was great, probably great back in the time, and I know I saw it on one of the ECW video, on that aforementioned first ECW home video release, and it was great, but it don't hold up now.
No, both these guys at the time were the living personification of the ECW brand, and Tanaka, with his charisma and his heart and his ability to absorb punishment, got over with this crowd, and it was a good example of not being able to speak English to get over. And then you have Awesome on the other side, who is such a physical specimen, and he was made to look really special. They protected him. They took a look at this guy. They saw what his weaknesses are. It's like, he can't talk. Well, we'll keep his talking to a minimum. He had a dominating look.
We'll give him a manager.
And, ECW could claim that, WWF and WCW were missing out because we have Mike Awesome. And then less than a year later, Awesome was plucked by WCW while still being...
And he became the fat chick filler.
He was probably part of the most bizarre title switch I ever saw. So we have Mike Awesome, who is a contracted WCW talent, lost the ECW title to Tazz, who was a WWF contracted talent. So Cyrus teased that Tazz could take the ECW title to WWF without actually saying WWF. TV title, right. Tazz versus RVD for the television title. This was not the main event.
In the building where RVD won the TV title a year and a half earlier.
Well, and despite, spoiler alert, the babyface goes over in this one. Why not put this as the main event and send the people home happy?
Because, I got no answer for you.
So Tazz comes out. He is stoically standing in the corner. RVD comes out, not to his Pantera theme, not to even his WWE themes, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, you think you could have used that, whatever the name of that band was that did his theme.
Yeah, like you could have put One of a Kind in there, and like they've dubbed Jericho's theme in a bunch of old Nitro, so why couldn't they do it here?
Well, somebody was lazy and tired that day.
I guess RVD is just less important.
We gave him a push and he got caught with weed. We are not changing hit. We are not dubbing his theme music.
Yeah. 10 years later, we're going to punish him by not putting a theme that we already own on our own network. So Joey goes on
This is a pretty good match.
It was okay. Joey starts off the show by ranting about the newsletters and the dirt sheets and compares toilet paper to a good old-fashioned snail mail wrestling newsletter.
Oh, Joey.
Now,
oh, Joey.
That seems like a throwaway line at the time, but think about your audience. ECW thrived on fans who read The Observer. So while it may have seemed like a rebel thing to say against, the establishment, you're basically insulting the majority of your fan base, probably because Joey read something he didn't like that week. What was with the ring announcer on this show?
They couldn't find Bob Ortiz or Steven DeAngelis.
This ring announcer had a super deep bass voice that was so over-exaggerated. Like he was a cartoon. He was a cartoon character that was supposed to act like a ring announcer. Okay?
Maybe a local Buffalo area guy, but they couldn't find Ortiz or Steven DeAngelis to do this.
I'm gonna attempt to reenact the announcement here. So, ladies and gentlemen, this contest is scheduled for
one fall.
One fall.
Introducing first the challenger. He is a former ECW Tag Team Champion, a former ECW Television Champion, a former FTW Champion, because that's important for some reason.
Unrecognized.
And a former ECW World Champion from the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York, weighing 245 pounds. This is Tazz. And his opponent, accompanied by the manager of champions, the man who calls it right down the middle, Daddy, Mr. Bill Alfonso, from Battle Creek, Michigan, weighing in at 235 pounds. He is the ECW World Television Champion, Rob Van Dam. And I probably did it better than that guy.
And you just peaked the microphone levels here.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
So, a super long, lengthy introduction. You did that very well. Did you do that just off the top of your head, or did you write all that stuff down?
Off the top of my head, and plus I've done ring announcing locally here.
Oh, there you go. And
yeah.
We all know you don't take notes, so no flashcards for you.
Nope. Oh no, they usually write it down on the back of the poster, the little poster that they have for me.
They need to have like the great big cue cards that the late night talk show hosts have. They'll just
but with my ADD, I'd lose my place halfway through. But anyway.
So Tazz gives the fans the finger. The crowd responds by "Fuck you, Tazz," which this crowd was really personally and deeply offended that Tazz was leaving ECW to advance his career. How dare you?
ECW fans are the worst.
How dare you leave our beloved bingo hall so you can actually make money and support your family?
And become a pretty good commentator when they can't figure out what to do with you.
Yeah. So Tazz fires RVD into the barricade in the corner. RVD crotches Tazz on the guardrail, and they attempt to Van Daminator with the chair, but Tazz gets the chair away from Fonzie. Tazz is in the crowd, and RVD dives over the guardrail onto him, but his ankle catches the top of the barricade. So we are playing into the fact that RVD's injured his leg, and Tazz clips the knee and the ankle, and starts to go to work on that leg. He hits a release tiger suplex. We don't see a lot of that in North America in 1999. RVD just lay there with his legs hanging over his head, and his junk was on full display for the world to see in those super tight tights of his.
Yep. We get a Van Daminator spot. Yeah. Which might be later.
Yeah. Well, Tazz goes out to the outside. He gets another table. There's too many tables for my liking at this point. And he sets up the table.
Tazz, get the tables.
He sets up the table in the corner. RVD hits a Rolling Thunder for 2. Rob tries, I guess, a rolling monkey flip while holding a chair, and Tazz just lariats him out of his boots. Alfonso hits the ring, tosses a chair over RVD's head. Tazz catches it. RVD misses the Van Daminator, and then Tazz catches him, and I guess it's like a T-bone capture suplex overhead through the table in the corner. Fonzie distracts Tazz. Tazz is now holding the chair, but he immediately turns around, and magically RVD is already on the top rope, and he gets hit with a one-legged Van Daminator into the chair.
Teleport.
Tazz fights back. He attempts a superplex. I don't know if there was a timing issue, but both guys kind of collapsed. I think this was supposed to be the setup for the 5-star. So I guess both guys had to do some improv in the last minute because RVD pulls out a split-legged moonsault for a 2. They do a few more spots. There was a German suplex attempt. RVD hits a spinning heel kick and then leaps to the top rope, hits the 5-star frog splash, and gets the win at 14:35.
Yep. Not one of RVD's best matches on these pay-per-views, but it's an okay match.
It's probably the second best match of this night. And then after the match, RVD and Tazz give each other a high five.
RVD and Tazz says, cheer this guy, even though you already were.
And they give him the big thumbs up. And Tazz is a babyface again. He bows to the crowd, and he leaves. And in ECW, these two guys were extremely special, but the writing was on the wall for these fans. I think Tazz did too many jobs on the way out. The fans wanted to cheer him, and as much as I was a fan of both these guys, this match just didn't click for me as much as it should have. And I think the botch at the end really put a damper on this finish, and it seemed kind of flat.
Yeah, I can see that. Our main event.
So I'm watching this celebration of RVD. We quickly transitioned to the entrance for the next match, so you could tell that something was edited out. Maybe it was a promo or a commercial, but there's RVD celebrating with his newly retained title. They fade to black. 1 second later, they bring the camera back up, and you just see Rhino making his entrance into the building.
Yes.
So,
Rhino Richards.
If any, the rookie monster. We love rookie.
Not to be confused with the Cookie Monster. And he's followed by Justin Incredible, who's still accompanied by Jason at this point.
And their third partner, Canada's
Storm with Dawn Marie in a very revealing tiny outfit.
Sweet Jesus.
And if you think that's bad, or if you think that's titillating, we have Tommy Dreamer come out next.
Dawn Marie. Remember the last show we did, Just Incredible, he was just a bit player in the 4-team elimination tag. This episode, he's the main event. Did you notice the shirt that Just Incredible was wearing?
No. Hardcore Icon.
He was wearing a shirt that said NHB No Holds Barred, which, if you lived in Winnipeg in the late 90s, NHB was a weekly call-in radio show that Cyrus did in Winnipeg on an over-the-air FM radio station. It aired every Sunday night from 6 to 7 right before the pay-per-view started. And he hyped that. And I was a frequent caller on that show many times. So kind of a precursor to today's podcasts. But
Joey Styles on Dawn Marie's outfit. Where's the rest of it? It looks like a cocktail napkin.
Yeah, Joey
and also talking about Cyrus wearing the white glove. Would you wear that with Dawn Marie?
When it comes to Dawn Marie, there'd be no latex involved. So they are taking on the threesome, the ECW legends of the Sandman and the ECW Tag Team Champions Raven and Tommy Dreamer, along with Francine, who was not that far behind.
And, Styles says that he as much as he hates to say it, he's picking Rhino and the Impact, Justin Incredible and Storm, because Raven and Tommy Dreamer have been DDTing each other up and down the East Coast. And Raven and the Sandman had a feud. And Raven, brainwashed his Sandman's ex-wife and his son.
Yeah, so
I'm with Raven.
Yeah, so all three baby faces, just like you said, they've all been feuding with each other. Sandman and Dreamer caned each other years ago. Dreamer almost blinded Sandman, which was probably one of the best angles ever.
Which is conveniently forgotten by Joey Styles, but he mentions the other two things.
The entrances and the introductions took 14 minutes. I checked.
And I'm not doing those. Well, Sandman's entrance probably took about 5 or 6.
Yeah, so Dreamer and Raven, they come out to music that is very close to their original, so maybe they just got the karaoke version. But Sandman's making his entrance, not with a song that sounds like
and this is where this is what takes where the WWE overdubs takes away from it.
Mm-hmm. So he starts out at the top of the cheap seats like he always does, and he starts to make his way down. He stops to crack a beer. The humanoid's right under him. They're sitting there with their mouths open like little baby birds. They're trying to catch spilled drops of beer. And Sandman starts chugging the beer. He cracks the can against his head, and there was a little kid right behind him. Like, he actually had both his hands on Sandman's shoulders. And I thought for sure this kid was getting a beer can to the face.
Or he was going to get a swig.
What parent in their right mind would bring a kid to a 99 ECW show?
A parent who wants to pay for his kid's therapy bills.
Child and Family Services should have been notified
VHS,
in Buffalo. Find this guy and I don't know.
Well, are we sure it wasn't a woman? Although there probably weren't very many women in that audience.
No, I'm guessing the demo wasn't highly female.
Nope.
So this match went downhill after the ring entrances of the babyfaces, Sandman in particular, which makes me really sad because I've always really loved Lance Storm. I watched him from the Canadian Indies. I watched him.
I like Lance.
I watched Lance.
I was disappointed that he didn't get more over in WWE.
Yeah.
They thought he was boring, but he's a good worker.
I watched Lance work Cyrus in a parking lot outside of a restaurant in 1993 in front of 50 people.
The supermodel, Don Callis.
Yeah. So it was a flat match, which, like I said, it's pretty tragic. Raven goes to backdrop Justin Credible, and Raven just lost his balance with Justin on his back. So
him in the ropes.
Stumbled back a few steps, and he wound up almost throwing him over the top rope and landing right on his head. So apparently he just instinctively was able to tuck his head a slight bit, or he probably would have broken his neck.
Yeah, safety.
And at this point, since whatever was planned was seemingly in disarray, everyone just started doing everything, and the director and the cameraman missed most of it. We get Storm doing a Pescado on Dreamer. We have Justin Credible recovering enough to take a DDT from Raven. Raven missed
a cat fight.
Raven missed a dive and went through a table. This built to a big spot where Sandman started caning Rhino. Rhino took 2 hard shots, staggered, and went down on the third. Unfortunately, this was the same spot that Tanaka did just, half an hour previously.
And then we get Dawn Marie in, and Francine. Too bad they don't rip clothes off each other, because they wouldn't have any clothes to rip off each other.
Yeah, they do the obligatory catfight spot. Sandman gets a hold of Dawn Marie and kisses her. So
that beer-soaked breath of the Sandman.
I hope she got paid extra that and got her Hep B shot.
I don't know if she got paid extra, but I do hope she got shots after that.
Actually, they might have both needed shots. Raven goes to...
And then Raven goes to Kane, Credible, but Kane's the Sandman, and Joey Styles going off about, was it intentional? Obviously not. Credible was who he's aiming for, and then Credible pins the Sandman with, "That's incredible!" because it's a pun.
Sandman must have shown a lot of trust with him taking a spinning tombstone.
Yeah.
And that match only went 9 minutes and 19 seconds. It seemed like it went 30 minutes.
This was a messy main event.
Yeah, so they're doing their pose, they're celebrating, and Justin Credible is staggering backstage. I think Lance had to help him to the back. He was shaken up for a while, but I guess the next afternoon he was okay.
This ends an up and down card. We get the highlights, and don't forget to order Guilty as Charged on January 7th.
Yeah.
Or whatever the date is.
The fan reaction to this was really kind of polarizing. It was according to the Observer poll, 34.9% thumbs up, 34.9% thumbs down, and 30.1% in the middle. So this was...
I wonder what Dave's grades were for some of these things. Do you have those?
Let me take a look here. I can pull it up here. We'll just edit some time. November 15th Observer. All right. So the best match was voted with as Awesome and Tanaka, and I would agree with that.
Of course.
Worst match was Spike and Simon Diamond.
All 3 minutes of it.
Spike Dudley versus Simon Diamond, half a star. Little Guido versus Nova, a star and a quarter. Jerry Lynn Tajiri and Crazy, 3.5 stars. That makes sense.
Yep.
The Baldies versus New Jack and Company, 1 star. Sabu and Candido, 3 stars. Awesome and Tanaka, 4 1/4 stars.
Okay.
RVD and
Tazz.
Tazz.
That makes sense.
Yeah, RVD Tazz, 2 1/4, and main event 1 1/4.
Ooh, that main event.
So Dave did not like this main event, and this was a glowing example of ECW being a distant third national product. Its best TV ratings and pay-per-view buy rates at their best times were probably close to the same as WCW has during its death period.
Or Impact has now.
Yeah. It had some good wrestlers, but for whatever reason, with the exception of the top guys, these are people that the big two never wanted. And when all is said and done, November to Remember looks like a low-budget WCW. If you really like plunder and you don't care about people's neurological states of mind down the road, go watch Awesome and Tanaka. The 3-way match was fun. RVD and Tazz was kind of okay for what it was. This was, like I said, this was a middle-of-the-pack show for me. Not as good as the Anarchy Rules the previous September.
That's a great show, and we'll be covering that one day.
Yeah. 99 had a lot of hit-and-miss shows. I thought Living Dangerously in May was a lot better. But
Living Dangerously was in March.
What was in May?
Hardcore Heaven.
Right, okay. And then Heat Wave.
In July.
Yeah. So, and hey, like WCW in the late 90s, this show ended with the popular local icons who, due to stress or lack of sleep or whatever, you have an older main event baby faces that are so banged up at this point, they can't really contribute more than a ring entrance. It was WCW without the name value, and with, as opposed to WWF, which at least at the time had, kind of really bad undercards, but really good main events.
It's had a really good undercard and bad main events.
Mm-hmm.
And
so, do you have anything else to say about this ECW show?
It's a hit or miss one.
Yeah.
If you like guys getting hit with chairs and you like Awesome and Tanaka, Sabu and Candido was good, but a little bit too long. The 3-way was good, but a little bit too short. And the main event was a mess.
That's putting it nicely. So
I guess I get the next pick, don't I?
You are in charge for next week, episode 10. This is a big episode. I didn't think I'd make it 10 episodes.
Well, all you needed was a good co-host.
All right, lay it on me.
I'm going to go to Bill Watts era WCW because we are going to cover WCW Halloween Havoc 1992 next week.
1992 Havoc, I believe, if my memory serves, is Lex Luger and Ron Simmons 2 out of 3 falls.
No, that's 91.
Oh, damn it.
Horrors. That's still in the midst of Jim Herd.
Off by 1 year. Okay, run through the card if you have it in front of you.
I can run through it without it in front of me. Your card for Halloween Havoc 92, in the opener we have Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, and Michael Hayes mixing the Horsemen, Freebirds, and Midnight Express against the Young Gun team of Shane Douglas, that jobber Johnny Gunn, or
Johnny Ace.
Johnny Gunn.
Oh, Johnny Gunn. Okay.
Tom Brandy, and the Z-Man.
A handsome man.
Then, that damn handsome Z-Man. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat against Flying Brian.
Oh, that's going to be good.
We also have Big Van Vader subbing for Rick Rude, who was supposed to wrestle twice on this show, defending the U.S. title against Nikita Koloff in Koloff's last WCW appearance, which is a no DQ match.
The first of many times that Vader had to sub in for Rick Rude.
Yep. We have Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham against Steve Williams and the stunning Steve Austin subbing in for Terry Gordy. So we have the Williams connection. We also have Ron Simmons defending the WCW title against the Barbarian because he qualified for a title shot at some point for some reason.
What? On pay-per-view?
Because they did the Cactus Jack match the month before at the Clash.
So he's going to eat his lunch?
I guess so. We also have... What else do we have? We have Rick Rude against Masahiro Chono for the NWA title. And we have Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal, round 1. Sting versus Jake the Snake Roberts in the main event.
All right, I'm going to look forward to that one.
Yep, and that will be done. That review will be done probably sometime this weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. And on that note, I mean, do you have anything to plug?
Go watch Survivor. Johnny Impact is still on his tribe.
You're Impact Wrestling champion.
Right. It's too bad that that wasn't in real time. He could have brought the belt to the Survivor Island with him.
What's that fake belt you're holding?
This is my immunity necklace.
It's not WWE.
Nope. All right. Well, that's going to do it. So thanks very much for joining us.
See you next week.
You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.